At the family dinner, my parents said, "Your sister deserves it. They gave her everything, the house, the money, the future." A month later, Mom texted, "The house payment is due." I simply replied, "Not my house. Not my problem." While I waited for Chris to call back, I sat at my desk in the dark. The Charlotte skyline was just a blur of lights outside my window. My hands moved on their own, a familiar tired muscle memory. I opened my laptop. I didn't go to my bank account. I went to a file hidden deep in a nested folder. A single Excel file I called Ledger. This wasn't revenge. This was accounting. I opened it, and the screen lit up my face. The numbers were all there in neat, sterile columns. I wasn't the emotional daughter anymore. I was an auditor. And this was the balance sheet of my family's betrayal. I scrolled down. Line 1, 5 years ago. Dad's David's small business was about to go under. He was too proud to ask, so Mom did her voice breaking on the phone. I sent $25,000. Not a loan. A gift. I remember Dad's brief, uncomfortable hug. He never mentioned it again. I paid it off for 2 years. Line 2, Megan's education. She just had to get a marketing degree. She swore it was her passion. I covered her tuition. $60,000 over 4 years, siphoned directly from my salary. She partied more than she studied, barely graduated, and then decided marketing was toxic. Now she was an influencer. Line 3, the house, the foundation. 3 years ago, a structural issue caused a massive crack in the basement. Mom called me hysterical, saying the house was sinking. I paid $15,000 for the repairs. I paid to fix the very foundation of the home they just gave away. My sacrifices weren't just feelings. They had dollar amounts. They had dates. They were quantifiable. I'd been the silent investor in their version of a family. But the last entry wasn't a number. It was a line of text. New York. The job I didn't take. A senior graphic designer position at a top-tier agency. $130,000 a year. A real future. I had the offer in my hand. I was packing my bags. And then Mom Susan called me. She didn't forbid me from going. She did something much more effective. She cried. She said, "Your father's so stressed. And Megan is, well, you know Megan. The family just needs you right now, Emily. We need our foundation." So I stayed. I unpacked my bags. I sent the email declining the offer. I chose to be their foundation. And tonight they'd just announced with smiles on their faces that they were going to build a casino on top of me. My phone vibrated on the desk. It wasn't Chris. It was Mom. "Dad is very upset about how you left." I stared at the text. The anger wasn't hot or loud. It was cold. It was clinical. A second text popped up. This one from Megan. "You made that so awkward. What's the big deal?" I didn't reply. I didn't feel sadness. I didn't feel anger. I felt clear. For the first time, I could see the math, and I knew exactly what I had to do next. My phone buzzed again. This time, I didn't even look. I just let it buzz, a meaningless vibration in a room that was finally perfectly quiet. I ignored the texts. "Dad is upset. What's the big deal?" Their words felt like they were coming from behind thick glass. Meaningless. I went to bed, and while I didn't sleep well, the cold clarity from the night before was still there. It was like a sheet of ice had formed over my emotions. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was an analyst observing a problem. I went to work at the agency. I focused on my designs, on the clean lines of a logo project, on the precise hex codes. I found comfort in the logic, in the black and white. My phone buzzed on the desk. Mom, then Dad, Then Megan. I silenced it. I would deal with Chris's information when it came. Everything else was just noise. Around lunch, my phone lit up with a different kind of notification. Instagram. I'd been tagged. My stomach didn't drop. I just felt that same cold clinical curiosity. I tapped it. It was Megan. Of course it was. She had posted a video. Not one of her polished sponsored influencer videos, but one of those raw and vulnerable ones. She was in her bedroom, tears streaming down her face, her voice thick and trembling. I just have to be honest with you guys, she sniffled into the camera. So many of you ask me how I stay so positive, but it's really hard. It's hard when the people who are supposed to be your biggest supporters are the ones trying to tear you down. My blood didn't boil. It turned to ice. She went on for 3 minutes, never using my name, but she didn't have to. She talked about her big dreams and her brand and how she was just trying to build something beautiful for the family. And then she said, wiping a perfectly formed tear, "You have family people who have everything who just can't be happy for you. They make everything about them. They get jealous. They try to make you feel small just because their own life is empty." She wasn't just lying. She was performing. She was weaponizing her instability, turning it into content. She was painting me as the villain to her thousands of followers. I scrolled down. The comments were already flooding in. "Stay strong, Queen. Don't let them dim your light. I know exactly what that's like. My sister is the same way." So toxic. Wow. Some people are just jealous. Setting boundaries, toxic family. She was using the language of therapy to justify her theft. This was her move. She knew she couldn't win a logical argument. She couldn't justify the numbers, so she was changing the battlefield. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about who was the victim. The texts from Mom and Dad started again faster this time. "Emily, your sister is heartbroken. You need to call us now. Look at what you've done." Not, "Look at what Megan did. Look at what you've done." They saw her video, and their only reaction was to protect her, to manage my reaction. They weren't shocked by her lies. They were shocked I had stopped playing my part. I looked at the video again. That calculated cry, the hashtags. This wasn't just a tantrum. This was an escalation. This was a public smear campaign. I didn't comment. I didn't text back. I just forwarded the video link to Chris. "Just so you know who we're dealing with," I wrote. I put my phone face down on the desk. The ice inside me wasn't cracking. It was hardening. This wasn't a family dispute anymore. This was a war, and she had just fired the first public shot. Okay, my turn. Megan's TikTok video was a strategic move, but it was based on a lie. My next move would be based on the truth. I just had to wait for Chris. The call came late that afternoon. I let it ring once stepped into an empty conference room at the agency and answered, "Chris." "Emily." He sounded stressed. His voice was low, tight. "Hey, are you sitting down? This is bad." My hand tightened on my phone. "Just tell me." "Okay," he took a deep breath. "So I pulled the title and the lien history on your parents' property. They took out a reverse mortgage. About 3 months ago." I felt the air leave my lungs. A reverse mortgage. It's exactly what it sounds like. A way to borrow against the equity of your home until there's nothing left. How much, I asked, my voice flat. "Almost all of it," he said. "They pulled out nearly 90% of the home's value. The bank owns that house now. Your parents just get to live there until, well, until they can't pay the taxes and insurance. I leaned against the glass wall of the conference room. All the money I'd put in, the foundation repair, the years I'd helped with the property taxes, all of it just gone. Hand it over. But Chris continued, and his voice dropped even lower. That's not the worst part. I couldn't imagine what could be worse. What is it? A reverse mortgage. The money is supposed to go to the homeowners, David and Susan. But the payout didn't go to their checking account. The bank statement shows a single, massive wire transfer. It went directly to a holding company. A holding company. For her brand? No, Chris said. I ran the name. It's a shell corporation, one that funnels money directly into a crypto exchange. A really sketchy offshore one. The conference room felt like it was tilting. Emily, she didn't just take the money for her influencer brand. She gambled it. All of it. My mind flashed to Megan's Instagram. The networking trip to Dubai 2 months ago. The content creation week in Bali just last month. The designer bags. The rooftop brunches. It wasn't sponsored. It was stolen. It was funded by my father's failed business. It was funded by my $60,000 tuition payments. It was funded by the $15,000 I spent to keep the foundation from cracking. She had taken the literal foundation of our family and bet it on digital coins. Chris, I said, and my voice was so calm, it scared me. Can you send me that? The wire transfer documentation. Yeah. Em, are you okay? This is criminal. This is elder fraud. I know, I said. Send me the file. I hung up. I stood there for a long time just looking at the whiteboard on the wall, at the faint outlines of old marketing plans. This changed everything. The dinner was an insult. The TikTok video was slander. This was a crime. My sister wasn't a failed dreamer. She wasn't just toxic. She was a predator. And she had just eaten her own parents alive using my money as the appetizer. A new email alert popped up on my phone. It was from Chris. One attachment. I opened it, and I saw the transaction. The game wasn't about setting boundaries anymore. The game was about justice. And I had just been handed the rule book. I sat there, the PDF of the wire transfer glowing on my screen, the crypto exchange, the dates, the trips to Dubai and Bali. It was all there. This whole time I thought I was just the invisible foundation, the one they ignored. But I was wrong. I was the one they were actively mining. And that's when a different memory clicked into place. Something sharp, something I hadn't let myself think about for years. New York. The $130,000 job. I'd given it up after that tearful phone call from my mother, Susan. We need you, Emily. You're our rock. But the crypto information, it made me question everything. The level of manipulation. The long-term planning. Megan wasn't just impulsive. She was calculating. My hands felt cold. I opened a new browser tab. I went to the login page for my old college email account. I hadn't used it in years. I had to go through the forgot password process waiting for the code to be sent to my current email. My heart was pounding, not with fear, but with a sick, cold anticipation. I got in. The inbox was full of old college newsletters and spam. I went to the search bar. I typed in the name of the New York agency. The email chain popped up immediately. Subject offer of employment. Senior designer. My stomach twisted. I opened it. There it was, the offer. $130,000. The start date, the welcome package. I remembered the jolt of joy I felt when I first read it a lifetime ago. I scrolled down the chain, and then I saw it. A reply. From me. Subject, re-offer of employment. Dear hiring manager, it read, thank you so much for this incredible opportunity. After careful consideration, I have decided to decline the position as my personal priorities have shifted. I wish you all the best in your search. I never wrote that email. My blood ran cold. I remembered agonizing over that decision. I remember my mother's call, but I never sent the email. I'd been about to call them to try and negotiate a later start date, but the rejection had already been sent. No, wait. I checked the timestamp. The email, the rejection, was sent 2 days before my mother called me crying. She wasn't calling to convince me to stay. She was calling to manage the fallout of a decision that had already been made for me. My hands were shaking. I clicked through the email settings, my mind racing. Security. Login. Activity. I scrolled down. Logins from my apartment. Logins from my college library. And then one that stuck out, IP address. IP address in Charlotte. Date, 5 years ago. 2 days after the offer arrived, I knew that IP address. I'd used it 1,000 times. It was my parents' house. I thought back. Who was at the house? Megan. Always Megan. Always borrowing my laptop because hers was broken. Always needing something. She had seen the offer. She knew what it meant. It meant her safety net was leaving. The Bank of Emily was closing its Charlotte branch. So she cut the wires. She logged in, sent the email, deleted the offer from my inbox, and then went to Mom. She'd probably confessed that I was leaving, worked my mother into a panic, and set the stage for that desperate phone call. This wasn't just a slight. This wasn't just ingratitude. This was sabotage. She didn't just take my money. She didn't just gamble away their house. She stole my life. She stole my future 5 years of it just to keep her personal ATM funded. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I took a screenshot of the email. I took a screenshot of the login history. I saved them to the same folder as the wire transfer documentation from Chris. The file was no longer called Ledger. I renamed it Evidence. The crypto crash was coming. I knew it. The bank notices would start soon, and they would come to me. I was sure of it. But this time, I wouldn't be their foundation. I would be the wrecking ball. The crypto market didn't just dip. It imploded. It was all over the news, a digital house of cards collapsing in real time. I watched the ticker, a cold, quiet satisfaction settling in me. I knew it wouldn't be long. The bank notices once, a trickle became a flood. I was in the middle of a client presentation at the agency, walking my creative director through a new branding concept, when the glass doors to our open plan office slid open. It wasn't a client. It was my family. My mother, Susan, my father, David and Megan. They didn't just walk in. They stormed in their faces a mask of panic and entitlement. The entire agency went silent. 20 designers, all staring. My mother marched right up to my desk, her hands clutching a stack of red-stamped envelopes. "Emily, you have to help us," she said, her voice cracking loud enough for everyone to hear. "The bank. They're taking the house. They're foreclosing." My father stood behind her, his face grim. "This has gone far enough, Emily. Fix it." I leaned back in my chair. My creative director was frozen, just watching. I looked at my mother's desperate eyes. I looked at my father's misplaced authority. And then I looked at Megan, who was hanging back, trying to look like a victim. "You're betraying us," Megan finally spat out, her voice rising. "After everything we did for you, you let this happen." I almost laughed. I stood up slowly, my hands flat on my desk. The entire office was listening. This was the moment. This was the climax they had written. "Help you," I said, and my voice was calm. "Clinical. Help you with what exactly?" My mother flinched. "The mortgage, Emily. What do you think?" "The mortgage," I repeated, nodding. "You mean the reverse mortgage you signed 3 months ago?" My father's head snapped up. "What? What did you say?" "Or," I continued, my eyes locking onto Megan, "should I help with the offshore crypto exchange, the one you wired the entire equity of their house to?" My mother's face went white. She looked from me to Megan. "Crypto, Megan? What is she talking about?" "She's lying," Megan shrieked. "She's twisting everything because she's jealous." "Am I?" I said. I picked up my phone from my desk. "Then tell them, Megan. Tell them about the wire transfer. Tell them about Dubai. Tell them about Bali. Tell them where the money really went." Megan's face crumpled. She had no answer. She just stared at me, her eyes filled with pure, unadulterated hatred. My mother looked like she was going to be sick. "David," she whispered. My father looked at Megan, his eyes wide with a dawning, horrific understanding. "Or," I said, my voice dropping, "maybe you're here about New York." Megan froze. "Maybe you're here about the job offer. The $130,000 job I never took. The rejection email you sent from my laptop using Mom and Dad's IP address 5 years ago. The one that kept me trapped here, funding your lifestyle." There it was, the final, fatal truth. My mother let the envelopes fall from her hand, scattering across the floor. My father just said, "Oh God." "Emily," my mother pleaded, taking a step forward, her hands outstretched. "Please. You're the strong one. You can fix this. You always manage." I looked at her, at this woman who had watched me sacrifice everything and called it strength. "No," I said, my voice flat. "I'm not. I am done being your strong one." I let the words hang in the silent office. That's the trap, isn't it? The strong one trap. You leaned on me, you took from me, you relied on me because I was stable. And because I was stable, you thought I didn't need anything. You ignored me. But you worried about her, I pointed at Megan, because she was a chaotic mess. So you gave her everything. You gave her your money, your home. And you even let her give away my future to keep her afloat. You didn't just lean on me. You were willing to break me to steady her. I looked at my father. "I will not be dragged down with you." I picked up my office phone and pressed the button for security. "Yes, I have 3 trespassers in the design wing who need to be escorted out." Megan's face was pure shock. My father just looked defeated. But my mother just looked confused, as if she truly couldn't understand why the foundation had finally refused to hold the weight. Security arrived. My colleagues watched silent as my family was led out of my life. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. The house was foreclosed, the bank took it, the truth came out, not in a dramatic explosion, but in quiet neighborhood whispers and public records. My parents, David and Susan, had to move into a small 2-bedroom rental apartment across town. Megan. She was gone. The day the eviction notice was finalized, she packed her bags, the designer ones I'd paid for, and disappeared. No note, No apology, just gone. Off to find a new host. I sold my apartment. I sold my car. I put everything I owned into 2 suitcases. The final scene isn't in an office. It's here. I'm on a plane looking out the window as the lights of Charlotte fade away below me. I have a one-way ticket to New York. I thought I would feel guilty. I thought I would feel sad. But I didn't. I looked down at the city that I had let become a prison, and I finally understood. Letting go wasn't an act of hate. It was an act of self-preservation. For years I believed family was an unbreakable bond of obligation. But it's not. Real loyalty has to include yourself. We're taught that setting a boundary with family is selfish. But it's not. It's survival. For the first time in my entire adult life, I felt light. I felt free. I smiled. If this story resonated with you, please share it. You never know who needs to hear that choosing yourself isn't just an option. It is mandatory. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe for more.